So, Gran Turismo is a movie based on a video game, but actually a movie also based on a true story. It's weird. Like, if you were to, like, I think, like, they've kind of, like, titled this film as, like, Gran Turismo based on a true story or something like that. Although the more fitting title would be Gran Turismo based on a true story that was based on a video game. So, this is a bit of an unconventional video game movie in the fact that it is based on the real life race car driver Jan Mardenborough. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Who was a Gran Turismo player, but then got the chance of a lifetime when Nissan and Sony decided to have a Gran Turismo Academy where the best players would train to be real race car drivers. And wouldn't you know it, one of the gamers actually turned out to be a successful race car driver in reality. And when you hear that type of story, you immediately think like, oh, this actually kind of makes like a decent sports drama or story like that. And to its credit for this film, it actually kind of works on that level. That being said, it mostly just kind of fulfills a lot of the expected boxes to be ticked with a sports drama that it's one of those films where it's like the assembly is great, but the path that it follows is pretty rigid for what it's setting up here. And I think because for one thing, it's directed by Neil Blomkamp, who I will say this. It is so cool to see Blomkamp kind of go outside of his comfort zone here of science fiction and try something a little bit different here with Gran Turismo. And I think he actually does a pretty good job with the direction here, considering it's just a little bit over 2 hours and it proceeds really quick. It's very, very, very fast paced. Which for a film all about racing, you want that definitely. So playing Jan is Archie Matakoe, I believe. Archie Matakoe, I believe I'm pronouncing that. Jan, he plays Jan, and he's a young person who's not sure what to do with his life, but he wants something to do with racing and cars. You can feel that drive within him, that he's bound for something bigger, but hasn't quite found it yet. It's only once Danny Moore, a marketing executive for Nissan, played by Orlando Bloom, with the perfect like executive slick back hair, like he's got the hair for this type of role, who comes in with a chance of a lifetime. Because it's weird because like you can feel like how much of like a big corporate decision this was that Jan got this chance, because I'm sorry to go off on this detour here, but I gotta bring this up. So the film begins with like bringing up Sony as one of the major studios backing this film, and they show you all of like the Sony video game characters that you might know from like the PlayStation games. And then immediately after that, we get a little bit of a montage of the development of the Gran Turismo video game. And you will see this development later in the film as well. And it's this aspect of like commercialism that you can't quite shake from a film like this. And it's hard to, because racing is like, it's driven by sponsors, so that when you look at like the race cars, they're decked out like, like they just slap on all the bumper stickers they could just to advertise all the products that are represented here. And of course, you better believe that, yeah, like Nissan and Sony's names are slapped over everything here. So minor point about the commercialism, but it does permeate the rest of the film here. So put in charge of training these race car drivers and eventually settling on Jan after going through all these different drivers is Jack Salter, played by David Harbour, who is a world-weary mechanic who used to be a pretty cool race car driver, but has left that life behind him and now is just a little bit bitter about being a mechanic for spoiled brats. So when he gets the chance to train gamers, he's not all that enthused about it. He makes all the predictable, jokes about gamers and, how it doesn't relate to real life. And then, of course, like he eventually forms a bond with Jan because he realizes that, no, this kid isn't just someone who plays video games. He's actually studied cars. He knows a little bit about them, and he can, sense what's wrong with them when he's maneuvering them around. So Jan's very astute. So I think it's like, oh, maybe this kid can actually win some competitions. Maybe we could eventually take him to Le Mans by the end of this film, which that actually happens. So you can immediately sense like, what's going to happen with this film. There's going to be a bond between like, the student and the mentor here with Jack and Jan. There's going to be some exciting races. There's going to be a rival on the track for Jan de Best. There's going to be a down moment where he doubts himself and that he can even become a race car driver, and then eventually getting to the big race in which he will finally win in a big triumphant moment. So it goes through all those beats, and it's fine. And the acting is actually really good from both like Archie and David Harbour. And fun fact to note, the real Jan actually does some of the stunt driving in this film as well. So little cool stuff like that is in the film. Also, but the other thing that I got to stress here is that because the pacing is so quick, it works on the track. But for adding the human element here, it feels like conversations are cut off too quick before they can expand to something more. Like one of the scenes that I thought would be great is when there's a moment after the first big race, Jan and Jack just kind of like sit down and have like a nice quiet moment with each other, in which they talk about their preference in music and, their experience with racing and what they hope to get out of the future. Interesting conversations like that would follow, but they're cut off quick by like some fans interrupting or getting to the next scene as quickly as possible, because there's always such a rush to cover all the races here, and some of the races just zoom by in like very quick montages. But I will say, like, the way that they're shot, the way that they cut between like the innards of the car and the long shots of the track and the close-ups of the drivers, it's edited like at a pretty progressive pace, where it never feels like it's overblown and it never feels like it's boring you with these races. So yeah, like Blomkamp, in terms of like directing the race scenes, he's got it down. But in terms of directing the scenes with the characters, I would have liked to have spent a little bit more time with them, especially since like Jan has like a love interest in this film, but there's so little time for her that it feels like Jack literally has to remind him, like, hey, maybe you should bring out your girlfriend, just in case you forget about her in this fast-paced plot, because there's a lot that gets kind of like shoved to the side here, especially for the fact that you have Diman Hassoun playing Jan's father here, and to the film's credit, like, this is one of the few films with Diman where he is not like killed as a supporting character. In fact, there's actually a very touching scene towards the end of the film where he confronts his son and realizes that, oh, I was wrong. I should have had more faith in you. And it's and it's fairly like typical dialogue for that scene, but Hansu just delivers it in such a powerful and meaningful manner where it's like you really do like kind of feel the emotion in that scene. It's too bad, however, that this is mostly kind of bookended, where we don't get to spend enough time with Jan's father, Steve, in this, where you feel like that sadness is warranted, just because like it feels like we're in such a rush. We gotta tick all the boxes here. We gotta get to this race. We gotta get to this character beat. We gotta get to this plot point. Fast. And like I said, for the racing, it works great. The races are exciting. They're engaging. They're beautifully shot. They're wonderful. They're fun. But then it's hard to feel that extra bit of emotion and feel a little bit more for Jan beyond just surviving the race, when we don't get to spend as much time with these characters. That, like, a lot of his quirks, like the fact that he's got to listen to Kenny G before getting into a race, is just like a quick like comedic punchline. Just like, boom, that's it. It's like, yeah, it's like I listened to it and I'm able to race better. And that's like the joke. Like, anytime he wants to relax, they switch on Kenny G. But yeah, I mean, sure, for people who want to measure this on the level like of a video game film, yes, this is higher up there. It's, I enjoy it a lot more than a lot of other video game films, but like looking at it more as like a true life sports drama, it's just kind of going through the motions. It's well assembled, and like, yeah, it's on a rigid track, but it speeds so well through it that I kind of really admire the film, just based on the way that it's assembled, from the way that it sets up races to what's shot, to the way the cars look, to the way they crash on the track, and just building up the intensity of those scenes. I love it on that level. I just wish that I could love it more on the human level. So in terms of like a racing sports drama, this film just kind of it's a good film. It's a good but not great film, mostly because I wish that we could spend more time with these characters so that the races had a little bit more at stake than just, careers and the life of the driver, like the standard stuff that's on the line of racing dramas. So, I mean, yeah, like it's no Ford v Ferrari, but hey, for the way it's shot, this is a pretty good film. As a sports drama, and as a video game film, yeah, this is top of the tier. I would watch this so much. I would be much more willing to recommend this over a plethora of video game films, bar none. So yeah, pretty good, pretty good sports drama and very good video game film for whatever that that review might be worth.